Brrr. Yes, your boy. You know, it's Kellen Sharp. And who else we got in the stew?
Gabriella Casas.
Oh no.
Latoya Wilson.
Jessica Campos.
Manny Flores.
All right, y'all. Welcome. This is a little podcast me and Latoya do. We don't really know what it's called yet, but we're live in this biatch, and we're gonna get it popping today. So last time we talked about Tinder and how certain preferences were prevalent throughout like the data we found for like Tinder and like Bumble and stuff like that, and we saw how people out here still enforcing racial stereotypes, but that's tough. Today we're going to kind of shift gears and talk about something really cool, streetwear. What do you guys feel about streetwear?
I don't know. Everything's very well, as of recent, everything's very like hipstery now for like a trend.
I don't know. I just feel like nowadays it's all like it used to be a way like in the 80s and stuff like that. It used to be a way for people to express themselves. It was like their badge, like this is my tribe, like this is where I come from. It reflected who they were. And nowadays it's been like kind of like appropriated by like a hyper masculine society to kind of, I don't know, and it's kind of marginalized the people who kind of brought it to be, which is like a trend with a lot of things these days, I guess.
Y'all wildin'. See, we didn't have to get that deep that fast. I just want to know what you guys thought about it. You guys think Supreme is the shit, or you guys think it's not the shit?
No, I think it's overrated.
Why?
It's
Because
tacky
it
as
started
hell.
out. Why did it start out? You guys know how it started out, right? It's like, it was just this guy knew that he could get. Not that that's a bad thing. That was a good business model. If you like, you can copy like high-end items and like kind of mix it with skatewear, and that's how he started Supreme. But then it just got again like hype. Like it just got hyped up, and now it's just like overrated. Like
Wait, didn't like Gucci collab with Supreme and all that stuff?
Yeah, they collab with a lot of people, so you see it, and like you see it with a bunch of brands because the creator of Supreme, that's how he started out. Like he was like, he saw that in skate culture, like they were like gravitating towards mixing like Levi's with like Gucci, like low end brands with like high end brands. Not that they're like bad brands, because like they're not like
As
expensive.
recognized.
Yeah, so when they mixed that, it was like a counterculture, but now it's like a culture of like not taking yourself too seriously. Like you can afford it, but you don't always have to be like, it's like trying not to be pretentious.
One thing I'll definitely say about the Supreme is it is so overrated. I don't know if you guys heard about the story, but the Supreme, the company, like they marketed this brick, an actual brick, and it was selling for up to $1,000.
That shit was fire.
It was just a regular brick, but it's just a brand name. Like,
How do you know it was regular?
It was fire roasted.
It
but
wasn't
not
regular,
fired.
actually. It had Supreme imprinted on it.
Unless it has something in it that makes me want to buy it, like, I don't know, it's like solid gold or something like that, and it's a gold brick or something like that, then I don't want it.
Hold on, speak it to the mic a little bit.
I don't want it if it's
waveforms.
not, like, if it's only valuable for, like, the name, then why do you, the label, like, then it's just, like, you want recognition for something by buying it, but you didn't, like, I mean.
Well, isn't that why we like buy anything that's a name brand? Like if I buy Nike, I know I'm gonna get out of Nike. I know it's high quality. I know what to expect, and I know I like Nike, and people like Nike. So like, what's the difference between that and Supreme?
Well, like Latoya said, they advertised a brick compared to actual clothing, and then Nike got its rep for actually providing, pretty good quality product. And while Supreme is just out here just advertising its logo rather than the actual product itself.
Like you're selling the name, you're not selling the quality.
Right. And
Wait, so if Nike put a Nike swoosh on a brick and so that this was the future of sports, you wouldn't buy it?
I would say, who is Nike?
Right.
Well, it
tweaking.
depends on this brick.
No, Latoya.
No. Nike, I think, as everyone was saying, Nike has established itself as a company. When you think of Nike, you think of all these brilliant and amazing sports people in the Olympics and stuff. That's how they branded themselves, and that's why we pay the money for Nike. Supreme, I see Justin Bieber sometimes. That's
how they brand themselves. They know that celebrities wear Supreme, so if you wear Supreme, you're damn near a celebrity, right?
Yeah, so going back to it again, they're marketing towards the name, not actually like what they're doing. They're just selling a couple of words.
Well, for sure. I did some research. I looked at a Vice article, and I basically synthesized from this that people will spend enormous amounts of cash on like secondhand, revamped items for the sake of hype. I think hype is really the source of all of this, and hype is defined from Vice News as the buzz surrounding the brand, which in itself is the brand that maintains the buzz. So the subsequent buyers into the buzz are derived as like hype beasts, and like this whole hype train is a perpetual motion machine, I think, for cash for the Supreme owners. And all they have to do is basically stock up with anything and then put the Supreme brand on it. But it wasn't always like that. As Gabby was alluding to, in 1994, Supreme opened as a skate shop in Lower Manhattan, catering to preteen Caucasian boys. See, having found limited success in that demographic, Supreme expanded their scope and started working with companies like Nike, ironically, on surreal like graphic t-shirts and shoes and things like that. With current cosigns from the likes of A$AP Rocky, Justin Bieber, and Kim Kardashian, it's definitely hard to ignore the social visibility of Supreme. Now, Supreme's catalog ranges from like graphic tees, and they're trademarked for even putting Supreme logos on crowbars and miscellaneous household items, selling them for high. Basically, their motto is, if we can slap a Supreme logo on it, we can sell it for high. Admittedly, when I first caught wind of the Supreme motto in middle school, I was thoroughly disgusted, and I thought to myself, like, what type of idiots would spend $1 million on a Supreme champion puffy red jacket? Google it. That is $1 million. But over the years, I've grown to appreciate this slanted model. The first thing they teach you in the business school is that the law of supply and demand is key. Low supply plus high demand is inherently increased price. And I think Supreme epitomizes this mantra better than any other brand other than Frank Ocean, because Frank Ocean don't be dropping music until we really want that shit. There has to be like a rationale, I think, and I'm going to pose it to you guys, like why people feel like they need to buy Supreme or like Palisade or Louis Vuitton or any other, high brand. But I guess let's stick to streetwear with like Supreme and Palisade. So like why would people buy it? It costs this much money. Like, why do people still buy it knowing that it costs that much?
Well, first off, don't compare Frank Ocean to Supreme.
Oh.
And then second,
Gunshots.
Second, people only buy it because mainly like the people that do have it are like the upper class or celebrities, so they want to like make themselves feel like there's something more than they actually are. That's what I think.
And you see it in like, because again, like, yeah, it like kind of, it fits like probably like what you want in the business model, like you like high demand and like you only give them like a certain amount. But in terms of like people buying it, it's true, like you want that status. It's always been in history that like you buy what the rich man has, even if you're working class, because it gives you a status. Like, why do people sometimes keep Ray-Ban stickers on the Ray-Bans? Because they want you to know that it's Ray-Bans. Why do they like? There's a giant like counterfeit culture, like.
You're gonna get smacked
like,
wearing fake Supreme.
Like, have you seen like, there's like this, like I know in like South Korea, there's like this thing of like marketing like counterfeit like just copies of like things like Supreme and like just like copying it so people buy it because it's what they want. It's cheaper, but because it has the label on it, it like gives them this like status. Like, I'm slightly better than you because I can afford this.
Word. But isn't it like you said something about like buying what the rich man gives you? But Supreme sells like some pretty like poor ass clothes, at least in quality. Like that looks like you. I mean, it's streetwear. Like you came straight off the street. Mm-hmm. So like, why spend why spend all that money to look broke? Like, look at Yeezys, man. Like, it's ridiculous the amount of people that stand in line, like in Chicago for like a drop, for like a Yeezys. I mean, I understand like the resale if that's what you're in it for, but like I don't. Somebody's buying this, and somebody wants to seem broke. And I guess like the main argument that I'm getting to within kind of my research is that it's a cycle, or at least it's a narrative that Supreme has taken not only from hip hop, but mostly from the LGBTQ culture, and has streamlined this to a model of success in dressing how people were in like the 90s and 80s and ridiculed for it, and then turning around to complain to like high fashion, as was stated earlier in the podcast, like the low fashion meeting the high fashion, like high fashion brands like Marc Jacobs then taking streetwear and putting it on runways in Mulan and kind of, I guess, appropriating their culture. I mean, what do you guys feel about that? Like, is streetwear now the new high fashion?
Streetwear is trying to be the new high fashion, but then again, like, there is high fashion when it comes to that. That's a whole different level than what we see. Like when you see New York Fashion Week, when you see all the different designers coming out and putting their new lines on the runway for us to watch. Like you see like the Hadid sisters, all these people walking. Sometimes you see high fashion, but high fashion is on another level. I don't think that, like, sometimes they incorporate pieces of streetwear into high fashion, but that's stuff that you wouldn't, like, the things that you see like on TV of like these like fashion weeks and just like runways on like Milan and stuff like that. They're not, I don't think that's like high fashion. There's stuff that, yeah, you probably wouldn't wear on the street, but high fashion is like, it's a certain model that like fits this like canvas for a designer put on like things, and like that's high fashion changes, but it's not becoming completely streetwear. It's not like that, I think.
Well, high fashion, I found out just looking up straight definition, is literally just means expensive fashionable clothes produced by leading fashion houses. So what I think is the reason why, yes, streetwear is becoming more high fashion, in my opinion, but I think it's due to like a lack of creativity from the entertainment industry as a whole right now. As we see, there's so many things that are just being remade. Instead of things becoming new, they're just leeching off the old things and, like you said, like appropriating in some instances, I guess, other people's cultures in order to just feed like this constant machine, because it's constantly going past and changing, but they don't have enough ideas to change with it. So I think that's where they're coming from, like getting things from streetwear, but at the same time they're still making it not accessible to the general public, because with the Supreme logo, even if you're saying like, oh, with Supreme they look broke, but it still says Supreme. So even if you see it, you're not going to think they're broke. Even, you know, if you see someone walking around with the Supreme, no matter how it looks, no matter how you think, if you see the logo, you automatically assume that it just means, oh, they have some prestige with them. And that's why I think, going back to the other question, why people buy it, because they want people to think they have that prestige and they have that notoriety. They do it for the clout, for people to think, I want to be like them.
Well, for sure, that's one of like the many arguments, clout, as to why people purchase Supreme. Another would be exclusivity. People want to feel special and exclusive to things that they do. Perhaps this newfound like clout will amass out somebody like a hair. Perhaps like it'll get them like a harem or something. I feel like people wear Supreme to feel exclusive and to get bitches out here. Like on a non-misogynistic, like, I feel like it's a very like heterosexual, cisgendered oriented type of brand. And so my dude's out here, like, if he's rocking Supreme, maybe he's rocking his jock, you know what I'm saying, Chief? Like, other arguments point to a more humane and introverted rationale. We like to look better to feel better, and with a known and highly coveted brand like Supreme, this is easily attained. A Guardian article further elaborates on streetwear and how it's restyled the world using hip-hop, this time shining light on a hypebeast factory, number 2, Palisade. How many of you have heard of Palisade?
Not I.
A little bit.
It's out in London. Well, while Supreme reigns supreme, with locations out in New York and London with a few more scattered in the U.S., the Palisade remains road, as kids like to call it, for its adherence to skate culture, the inverse of Supreme's grown mission statement. So essentially, like, Palisade is like the more skate Supreme, where it's kind of sticking to what Supreme originally was, and it, you know, it does it better, I guess. But, you know, Supreme is still Supreme. So this article further referenced a book titled Subculture, The Meaning of Style, in which the author argues that with Supreme and Palisade, quote-unquote, humble object can magically be appropriated, and I guess subsequently for the sold 100 times its production costs. That these subcultures somehow find refuge and sanctity in fashion stolen from a subculture which expresses resistance. Hence, like any white kid can like put on some like Supreme and feel connected to like hip hop, or they could feel connected to like skate culture, or they could feel connected to like the LGBTQ culture inadvertently, you know, because that's like all it takes is like wearing the clothes. Like I don't know, I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's acceptable. But like we've broadened our definition of like what is hip hop culture. Like you can say Lil Pump now. You can say like Lil Xans. I mean, Manny shakes his head no. But I mean,
they're not really part of the culture.
Well, explain, elaborate.
Because like the whole history of hip hop was, well, from what I've taken out of it, is like more of like a rebellion of like, it's particularly like of like the black struggle, and then them coming so far, and then to have someone Lil Peep, Lil Xan, like who, and then them like because the message of hip hop, like especially during raps, like it used to be about like the oppression they face, and now it's more about like I fuck so many bitches and all that shit. So that's something that's completely different from like the actual like start of the hip hop. Which is
who's the authority within hip hop? Like who decides what is hip hop and what's not hip hop?
I feel like the avid listeners, but I mean, and also I don't want to say like the whole black community because not everyone is like supportive or listens to it, but it was started by members of the black community, so I do feel like they have more of a voice compared to other like groups, you know what I mean?
So I guess in that regards, like the people who have started this Supreme brand
like the OG.
Have a voice over like Louis Vuitton or like any other high fashion, in the sense that like they, I mean, really popularized like the graphic tees and like the punk, the skate style. And so now that they see that their style, which is arguably appropriated from other styles, is being taken by like these high fashion lines, do they reserve the right to like grieve about that, you know, and complain? Is it within their right to say, no, this is our shit, don't take it, it's becoming too mainstream? Do they deserve that right?
You mean like the creators of Supreme?
Yeah, just like Supreme, people who wear Supreme, like because it's becoming high fashion, should they like be able to say like, no, we want this to be our little cult type of dress? Because Supreme, like in like the whole like hypebeast culture, wasn't always mainstream. It's only mainstream like these past like 5 years, you know. So do they reserve the right to say that's not part of our culture?
I think that's difficult though, because like, I mean, I don't know, because Supreme, like, it started out that way. Like, it started out like a part of a subculture, but like the people followed it. And like, yeah, some people like kind of resisted, but they still like buy the clothes. If you're still buying the clothes, but then you like protest against it, I don't know, like, that's like a difficult question to answer. Because then there's also people who like, they say like, oh, I miss when like Supreme was like this and like that. But then like, and they claim that they were there like from the beginning, like they bought like the original stuff. But maybe there's somebody else who said like, oh, I miss when like Supreme was like I don't know actually.
Are you talking about like Supreme that is making like the vintage clothing now? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Because in that regard, I would say no, they have no jurisdiction, because especially right now, because they're deriving a lot of the ideas of like vintage clothing. When I know when I was younger, like we would go thrift shopping, and then but if kids would find out, they would like start teasing. And then now they're trying to create like new clothing that look vintage, and they're trying to create that image of like, oh, where since it's Supreme, it's way better, when they're just taking off like more like lower middle class trends of what the kids used to wear.
Totally. I guess still like even I wonder, because this Supreme is kind of coming from like a stolen culture, they've kind of created their own little subculture within that stolen culture of like the cisgendered like heterosexual males who do this stuff. Like, because it's stolen, do they have no right to it? no right to like that kind of art form, I guess, in their clothing styles, even if it is recreating other people?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, big facts. What do you think, Latoya? You've been silent.
Well, to be honest, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm just trying to think in general, like clothes. It's hard to say that a certain clothing style, like socks, the basic tee, belongs to a certain group of people. I feel like there's certain basic things, like you're saying, oh, the polos and stuff. Well, Polo's a different brand, but still, like, you know what I mean? Like those basic shirts to say, like, oh, they created that, so they should have a right to tell high fashion, no, you can't use that in your own designs. I think, like, clothes, like, there's certain things that no one can really claim, you know?
Well, I agree with you, but
You can't claim. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I agree with Latoya, but I think what I'm trying to say is that it's important where they give credit where credit is due. Like, they can't act like they invented this novel idea when it's always been existed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I see where you're coming from. Like, you say where you got the idea, don't claim it as your own, because that's where it goes from, like, appreciation and appropriation. Like, that's where the fine line is. So I can definitely see that.
And then also, since they also hype up the price by so much, I don't think that it's fair that like the creators that don't make as much would not get as much profit compared to people who are basically stealing the idea and just putting Supreme on it and just hyping it up like thousands of dollars.
For sure. I guess continuing my kind of research, there's been recent outcry by a hypebeast that more and more streetwear is being appropriated, as we were discussing, by bigger and well-known fashion brands like Givenchy and Raf Simons the past 10 years. That leading hoodies, shoes, and graphic tees for the last 10 years have been slowly integrated into new high fashion lines. Within the past couple years, you could see Supreme collaborate with Louis Vuitton on catwalks in the year 2000, when Supreme tried to put LVs on the bottom of a skateboard, they received a cease and desist notice worth $1 million from Louis Vuitton. So, times change. I have many friends who've grown at the thought of hypebeast culture being mainstream now, engulfed by bigger brands like Vetements, and I can't help but point out the hypocrisy. Number one, street culture itself was appropriated by these London outlets, capitalizing off the experience of brown and black male youth. This youth, too, can very well be argued for appropriating their modern styles from an LGBTQ community, many of which are active in the hypebeast community, but not enough for us to acknowledge the overwhelming smell of cisgendered heterosexuality. Oversaturation. I remember when I was 10, it was 2010, and Justin Bieber released his video for the smash hit Baby, which, by the way, has 2 billion views on YouTube. That shit lit. And at the time, dancing, singing, and fashion in this video were unprecedented. Here he was with a diverse group of kids turned up at a bowling alley, and there was this one kid named Justin wearing tight black pants with unmarked skater shoes. My mind was blown, and at the time, for a black male raised in a black family, that shit was gay. Yet, somehow the girls liked it. The following years, there was a rapid change in fashion. I noticed the jeans got skinnier and the shirts got tighter. Artists like Pharrell and Kanye West were ridiculed for being frontrunners in this new cultural shift. And it wasn't until the New Boys, for those of you who don't know, hopefully I'll be able to play the song if this BSI works. They released a song called Crickets featuring Tyga, where they said skinny jeans are it, and if you hate, you're a hater, and all we hear is crickets. This was the cosign that I needed, so I rode skinny from then on. By 2015, everybody was rocking skinny jeans, and I don't even really bat an eye when I walk down the street and see somebody in a flamboyant outfit. Notice, though, my first reaction to seeing skinny jeans on a man, I said that was some gay shit. Honestly, I would never say that like nowadays, but in 2010, I didn't know better, and my mind just went straight to that gay shit. But in fact, most of our styles are derived from that quote-unquote gay shit in the LGBT community. I found it interesting how I always attributed our current fashions to hip-hop alone, and while the culture does have an immense influence on supplying tracksuits and worker boots, we cannot ignore the influence that the queer community has had on hip-hop and subsequently hypebeast culture. Joel Penny, an associate professor at the School of Communication and Media, Montclair State, University Education PhD, shout out that dude, and Communications wrote an interesting article titled "We Don't Wear Tight Clothes: Gay Panic and Queer Style in Contemporary Hip Hop." So this article essentially juxtaposes the encroached homosexual style of tight pants and skinny jeans ushered by Kanye West in the late 2000s with the rampant image of hypermasculinity black males exerted by extension in their bravado-based lyrics. So Penny basically examines the battle between 50 Cent and Kanye West. Do you guys remember that? Were you guys old enough?
Mm-hmm.
So basically in 2007, they had a bid on who would sell the most records if they released their albums on the same day. So it was Kanye West for Graduation and 50 Cent for Curtis. Basically, this was a contrast of like two extremes of like the black male. Yeah, Kanye, who at this time was like rocking like, you know, he had like the shutter shades and like the cardigans and stuff like that. And 50 Cent, who was 50 Cent. In the end, though, Kanye sold more records, outsold him by a third actually, and the rest is history. So hip hop's accreditation of streetwear should be minimized. Because from the mid-1990s till our Kanye West moment, gender norms were pretty much standardized. Men were modest within their dress and braved embellishments like chains and hats, and some even preferred multiple layers of shirts. Shout out Soulja Boy. And would sag their pants really low, really baggy, should be noted, while women were scantily clad and, you know, objectified and like barely dressed and shit. So it was like these gay fashion designers who shifted the paradigm. Men's jeans were made tighter in response to tight jeans on women because they too wanted to sexualize men. You know, that's what tight jeans represented, was sexualization. So if men had tight jeans, then they're sex objects too, and then social statement. This is not a notion that many golden age hip hop fanatics would bend to. And this shared gender expression really skewed the line between what was masculine and what was feminine, a mantra that the LGBTQ community like easily gets behind. Hip hop essentially was really slow to the graphic tees and skinny pants, and the fact that the complex and Vice articles that I like did a lot of my essential research for were sparse in referencing this was alarming. Hip hop nowadays is ubiquitous. In 2018, there's like really no barrier. Anyone, like how I was arguing before, can claim hip-hop, black, white, straight, gay, trans, etc. It doesn't really matter. The subgenres are limited. However, not just anyone can claim being part of the LGBTQ community without suffering a social mark in sense of like, you're claiming this, you're not doing this for clout, you know? So my biased view is that the hypebeast culture has evolved and is now that of affluent middle-class white men trying to get some sort of clout for indulging in a black culture on the surface, but furthermore, they're garnering attention from an LGBTQ culture, which they've yet to acknowledge, because you can appropriate black culture and still be cool, but if you appropriate LGBTQ culture openly, you'll be subject to ridicule. I know that was a lot I just said, but overall, I just feel like we need to really give LGBTQ like people in the community the props that they deserve for pioneering a fashion. And it wasn't hip hop that pushed that. It wasn't pop culture that pushed that. It was the underground club scenes that were playing Daft Punk and like the electric. It was the Rocky Horror shows. It was those sort of like media outlets that really came to the forefront of fashion. But hip hop was sort of like the vehicle, as it is ubiquitous and openly accepting to all these things, that hypebeast, particularly affluent middle class people, would take these skinny jeans and these graphic tees and these chokers and all these other sort of things that are prevalent today and like make money off of it. So I think it's big trash. That's all I really have to say about that shit. Behind the outcry of appropriation for their culture, Louis Vuitton is a silent. Oh, what the fuck did I write? Hold up, sorry. Essentially, right? Okay, my last point was like, okay. As streetwear emerges into the realm of high fashion, I believe it's a homecoming. These high fashion designers are gay. Look at Gianni Versace, Marc Jacobs, Saint Laurent. All these fashion designers are now taking back, you know, what was originally stolen from them through hip hop by middle class white people, and that's justice. Natalie, please give me an A on this assignment. She's the one grading this. She's my teacher.
Is this an assignment for school?
No, this is for fun.
Kellen.
Yeah. So that was my hypebeast thing. Any thoughts on that?
No. But I do actually have a comment on something you said while discussing that. What you said. I want you to elaborate because I just want to know more about your opinions on it. You said anyone can claim hip hop culture.
Yes.
What did you mean? Like, do you actually think anyone has the right to claim it, or do you say anyone openly claims it?
Okay, that's two different things: having the right to claim it and claiming it. Like I said before, Lil Xan can claim hip hop. Hip hop might not claim him, but he can claim hip hop. Lil Yachty can claim hip hop, and for many, he is hip hop. But that boy went on complex and disrespected Biggie. A lot of people don't. I mean, anyone can say that they're part of hip hop, and like I asked Manny, like, who is the authority? You can't, like, I can say no, but 3 other people can say yes. You know, it doesn't matter black or white who says what anymore in terms of hip hop, because hip hop is everything. Hip hop is so mainstream that everybody has appropriated it. Just like everybody has appropriated black culture. It's so mainstream. I mean, we still have a little footing on that in terms of like if you're wearing some box braids, that ain't it. But if you're just wearing some braids, blah, blah, okay. You know? So it's like, I mean, we don't have any like real ammunition against like anyone can make hip hop. You just go Fruity Loops, download that shit, get a drum beat, rap, and then that mean, is that hip hop? By definition, yeah.
That's how musical history works, though. I mean, obviously it stinks because I think a lot of people don't know. I mean, nowadays a lot of young people do, but that African American people or like minorities have pioneered a lot of the music that we know and love today. And so, but when you think about it, that's how musical history like happens. You just start at one point and it branches off. So people don't like Lil Xan or Lil Peep, but they're their own like subgenre, I guess, and they can claim that subgenre. Maybe like he said, it won't claim them back, but like a specific type of person listens to them. So I guess it just really depends on like your perspective of like where you classify them.
I see that. I see what you're saying, but as much as like people are trying, like I feel like you cannot just claim hip hop because it's more than just getting a beat and rapping to it. I feel like hip hop is
tough.
It's the story, it's who you are, what you came from, like it's the struggle that you've gone through. That's what it is. It's not just, oh, I rapped on the song, follow my SoundCloud. Like that's not just hip hop to me.
By the way, do follow my SoundCloud at Kellen Sharp on SoundCloud. I disagree, Latoya. I think, I mean, okay, so I've extensively in the history of hip hop, right? It's always been like, essentially the story of like rebellion and rags to riches. Those are, I think, two prominent points within history. All right, so you've got like house parties thrown by DJ Kool Herc in the Bronx, and they're just really trying to escape the reality and like the poverty that they're living in. And like the disco before them, kind of like fuck that, fuck the old people, fuck their sounds, fuck that whole Black Panther movement. We're gonna do it our way. We're gonna rebel our way, and that's through music. And then you get like the rags to riches in this terms of like Biggie and like Jay-Z and stuff like that, really pulling yourself up by your own bootstrap. And so like I feel like anyone who is acclaimed enough to like make it to our earwaves, you know, can what up, Yomi? Hey, gang. Can come through and say that they're part of hip hop. Like anyone can be part of hip hop now. Like I'm sad to say that, Latoya. I'm not saying that with like a smile on my. Actually, I am. I'm not saying that because I want it to happen. I'm saying that because that's just how it is now. Trippie Redd, that boy ain't hip hop like that, you know. But like he collaborates with hip hop artists. He has hip hop beats. He's with producers.
You can't have hip hop beats or collaborate with hip hop artists, but you yourself, you're not part of hip hop.
So what's hip hop?
Just because you're surrounded by it doesn't mean you are it.
What's your credentials?
I mean,
okay, hold on.
Yes.
Okay, so Latoya was saying how wait, what were we saying? I forgot.
I was just saying like it's the culture, it's your story. It's more than just rapping on a beat.
Like hip hop, like one of the reason it all started was because people wanted to voice their struggle, and then like I said before, like the meaning of like rap songs and all that is like way different than what it was. So having someone says, look into my eyes, you see the demon in me, like that's something completely different than what people back then, like during like the civil rights era and even before that, like what they were doing.
think that you guys are wrong. But that's okay. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick music break, and we're gonna come back. All right. So I just gotta figure out how to do this shit. Let's get it.